As the war in Ukraine grinds into its third year, it has become a conflict unlike any other in modern history. Traditional warfare, defined by massive artillery barrages, trench assaults, and armored thrusts, has been fundamentally reshaped by the emergence of unmanned aerial vehicles. In the skies above the battlefields, drones have become the decisive weapon of this war, allowing Ukraine to strike deep into Russian positions, eliminate enemy troops with pinpoint accuracy, and disrupt supply lines without ever putting soldiers at risk. This report provides an in-depth account of drone operations conducted between February and March 2025, detailing the evolving tactics, psychological impact, and battlefield effectiveness of Ukraine's drone forces. Through a series of documented missions, the scope of this new form of warfare is laid bare. One where technology and precision replace brute force, and where an unseen enemy can destroy a soldier before he even knows he's being watched. February 20, 2025, a wounded enemy, a relentless pursuit. It was just after midday when a reconnaissance drone from the 3rd Assault Battalion spotted movement along a rural road in the Donetsk region. A Russian armored vehicle, an empty LB troop carrier, was moving cautiously through the landscape, its treads grinding against the frost-hardened dirt. Inside, a squad of Russian soldiers sat in silence, their weapons in their laps, their eyes darting to the sky through the narrow viewing slits. They had reason to be afraid. The battlefield belonged to Ukraine's drones. From a concealed position nearly 3 kilometers away, a Ukrainian UAV operator locked onto the target. The drone, an FPV, first-person view model loaded with an anti-armor charge, was launched, its camera feed relaying a real-time image of the target. The operator guided it with the precision of a surgeon, weaving between trees and power lines before angling downward in a deadly dive. The impact was catastrophic. The explosive payload tore into the vehicle's thin top armor, detonating inside the troop compartment. Flames erupted from the rear hatch as the blast forced the heavy steel doors open. Through the drone's thermal imaging, the operator saw the heat signatures of bodies slumped inside, some motionless, others writhing in pain. Then movement. A single soldier, bloodied and dazed, crawled out of the burning wreckage, dragging himself toward the tree line. The drone operator adjusted his angle, tracking the wounded man as he struggled forward. He was unarmed, but leaving him alive was not an option. He could carry intelligence, call for reinforcements, or simply live to fight another day. A second drone was deployed. It swooped in low, releasing a fragmentation grenade that exploded just meters from the soldier. He convulsed, his body jerking with the force of the blast, but still, he moved. The operator corrected course, lining up the final shot. The next strike was precise, and when the dust cleared, there was no more movement. The Ukrainian team marked the target as neutralized, another Russian squad wiped from the battlefield. February 22, 2025. The psychological toll of war. In the KSK sector, a lone Russian soldier stood in the corner of a muddy trench, his back pressed against the damp earth. He was not Russian by birth. His uniform marked him as one of the North Korean troops sent to aid Moscow in the war effort, part of a quiet but growing influx of foreign mercenaries and conscripts. He was shaking, not from the cold, but from fear. Above him, somewhere in the sky, an unseen enemy hovered. The Ukrainian drones were always there, their presence constant and oppressive. Soldiers in the Russian ranks had started calling them the Reapers. The name was fitting. A reconnaissance drone, silent and small, hovered just outside the trench, its camera lens fixed on the terrified soldier. From a concealed control station kilometers away, a Ukrainian operator watched, his fingers resting lightly on the controls. The enemy soldier was gripping his rifle too tightly, his knuckles white. He kept glancing upward, his eyes darting back and forth, as if trying to see the death that was surely coming for him. The drone's altitude dropped. The operator lined up the shot. The soldier barely had time to react. The small munition exploded directly above him, sending a shock wave through the narrow trench. His body crumpled instantly. His rifle slipped from his grasp, disappearing into the mud. Another enemy eliminated. Another psychological blow struck. Word of these attacks spread quickly among Russian troops. Soldiers began refusing to move in open ground. Officers reported cases of men firing blindly at the sky, convinced they were being watched. The fear of Ukraine's drones was eroding the enemy's morale faster than any artillery barrage ever could. February 25, 2025, the hunting grounds. The forest west of Bakhmut was eerily silent, the kind of quiet that made even the wind through the trees feel like an unwelcome intruder. The two Russian soldiers moved cautiously, scanning the dense undergrowth for any sign of movement. Their orders were simple: identify weaknesses in Ukraine's defensive lines, find gaps in their fortifications, and report back. But what they didn't know was that they had already been spotted. Above them, weaving through the skeletal branches, a Ukrainian FPV drone ghosted along, its electric hum barely audible over the rustling leaves. The operator, sitting miles away in a concealed bunker, studied the screen intently. He could see everything: the way the lead soldier's rifle swung slightly with each step, the nervous glances they exchanged, the beads of sweat forming on their brows despite the cold. These weren't seasoned operatives. They were prey. The drone adjusted its trajectory, dropping lower. The first strike came without warning. A shake charge designed for precision, locked onto the lead soldier and struck with terrifying accuracy. The explosion wasn't a chaotic burst, but a focused, controlled detonation. His body crumpled to the forest floor before he even had time to scream. The second soldier reacted instantly, throwing himself behind a fallen tree, his breathing ragged. He fumbled for his radio, hands shaking, desperate to call for backup. But the drone operator had already anticipated this. There could be no survivors. No one would be allowed to tell the tale. Another drone, launched from a hidden position nearby, was already in flight. It dipped and weaved through the trees, its camera feed tracking the soldier's heat signature. The operator barely needed to adjust his controls. He had done this too many times before. The Russian soldier shifted, his head darting upward at the faint whine growing louder. He knew what was coming. Panic overtook him. He sprang up, tried to run, zigzagging through the undergrowth, hoping to make it to thicker cover. But it was useless. The drone was too fast, too precise. It locked onto him and plunged downward like a mechanical hawk. The explosion ripped through the clearing, sending dirt and bark flying in all directions. For a moment, the dust obscured everything. Then, as it settled, the operator saw what he expected. Nothing moved. The soldier lay sprawled, lifeless. Another enemy erased. But this wasn't just another random strike. It was part of something bigger. Ukraine's drone teams weren't just launching attacks. They were waging psychological warfare, systematically hunting down Russian forces one by one. Every fallen soldier, every patrol that never returned, planted more fear into the minds of those who remained. The Russians were no longer just fighting an army. They were fighting ghosts. March 1, 2025, the final hours of a Russian convoy. Near the Malov region, a Russian armored convoy advanced cautiously down a narrow road. Their mission was a routine resupply run, moving fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements toward the front. They never reached their destination. Ukraine's drone teams had been tracking the convoy for over an hour, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. From hidden positions in a ruined village, Ukrainian forces launched a coordinated wave of FPV drones. The first struck the lead vehicle, a BMP infantry fighting vehicle, its explosion obliterating the front section and turning the gunner's hatch into a twisted wreck. Panic set in instantly. The convoy ground to a halt as Russian troops scrambled for cover. But the drones were relentless. One after another, they struck, destroying supply trucks, setting fuel carriers ablaze, and cutting down infantry as they fled into the open. By the time the assault ended, the road was littered with burning wreckage and the bodies of fallen soldiers. Not a single vehicle remained intact. This was modern warfare. No prolonged firefights, no protracted battles, just swift, surgical destruction delivered from the sky. Conclusion: the future of war. Ukraine's drone warfare is more than just a tactical innovation. It is a revolution in combat, a shift that is redefining the nature of modern warfare. No longer do large-scale battles depend solely on massed infantry charges, towering tank columns, or relentless artillery bombardments. Instead, precision, speed, and intelligence are the new cornerstones of victory. Every day, drones rewrite the rules of engagement, turning the battlefield into a chessboard, where visibility and rapid adaptation determine survival. With each passing month, Russia's forces grow more hesitant, more afraid. The relentless presence of Ukrainian drones has instilled a level of psychological terror unseen in previous wars. Soldiers hesitate before stepping into open fields, convoys delay movement for fear of unseen attackers, and entire units have been known to abandon positions at the mere sound of a drone overhead. The balance of power is shifting, not because of sheer firepower, but because of superior technology and strategy. Ukraine's drone operators, often working from concealed bunkers or mobile stations, have become some of the most lethal warriors of this war. They are unseen ghosts in the sky, able to strike targets with pinpoint accuracy while remaining miles away from the front. Each drone is not just a weapon but a force multiplier, allowing small teams to take on entire battalions. The old ways of waging war are crumbling, and those who fail to adapt will be left vulnerable, exposed, and ultimately defeated. The battlefield now belongs not to those with the most men or the heaviest tanks, but to those who control the skies. The age of brute force is fading, giving way to a new era where technology and innovation dictate the course of war. And in this war, Ukraine's drones reign supreme.